much like it.
Right, I think we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. Let me know if you can hear me and you can see me okay, and welcome to the live Q&A for February 2026. We have no chat on the screen at the moment. You know what things are like. Software is always changing in the background. Aha, there it is. The chat is working. Excellent. And for those of you that are interested, this is a new camera. So the new camera arrived yesterday and I'm using this. Hopefully, cross your fingers that it won't switch off. We'll see what happens. But anyway, yes, welcome to this month's live Q&A. As always, funded completely through Patreon. Video is not sponsored in any way. All of the advertising revenue goes to charity and other good causes. And the format of the show is going to be the same as always. I'm going to be going, first of all, through all of the questions that I've been asked in advance over on the Board Game Geek Guild. So if you are somebody who has asked one of those questions, thank you very much. There is a lot of them. So I expect today's live Q&A might be quite long. We will see. I will, as always, try and be short and concise with my answers, but I never am. So I say that I try. I do try, but I always fail. And then after that, we're going to be going over to the live questions. So if you are watching live and you do have a question for me, please put it in the chat, but start with the word question in capitals and then put your question. Vicky will transfer all of those questions to a document and I will get to those once we have been through all of the questions from the guild. And then I will be going through the details of last month's giveaway and giving you the details of this month's giveaway as well. Okay, right, we're good to go. So, first of all, the questions from the guild. And the first one is, if I can find it, let's just close this down, was here. This is from Asaf from Easy Board Games. Always in very early with the questions. And the question is, since I have recently covered the second edition of Rurik on the channel, Asaf is a fan of the first edition of Rurik. And his question is, he wanted to ask me, is there one game where the second edition of that game is one which I liked the most? So I've had to think about this and I've thought of three. One of them is Clash of Cultures. When Clash of Cultures got effectively a second edition, it was published through WizKids and it was called the Monumental Edition. It incorporated all of the stuff from the old expansion, but it did actually tweak quite a lot of rules as well. So I would class the Monumental Edition of Clash of Cultures as the second edition of the game, and it was an improvement. It was a great thing. Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization is again effectively the second edition of Through the Ages. Through the Ages is an amazing game and I love it, but there were some issues with it after, hundreds of plays. And the New Story of Civilization just turned it into an utterly fantastic game. And yeah, definitely in my top 5, probably top 2 or 3 at least. But the one that I want to highlight is a game which I've played recently, which is the Pathfinder Adventure card game. And this is another game where, like Through the Ages and Clash of Cultures, it was not called the second edition. In fact, it was called the core set. It was very confusing. I have spoken to fans of the game and they've explained why it was called the core set and why it wasn't called the second edition. But for me, the core set of Pathfinder Adventure card game that came out in 2019 is effectively the second edition of the game. It contained enough tweaks and changes that you would normally find in a second edition of a game. And that, for me, those tweaks made it into a much, much better game that I thoroughly enjoy playing a lot. So yeah, I'm going to give it to the Pathfinder Adventure card game for a second edition of a game which I enjoyed. If you have your own thoughts on this, again, please put them in the chat, or if you're watching this video back afterwards, let me know what your favourite second edition of a game was. Next question from Gavin. Is there a special board game that you and Vicky like to play on Valentine's night? Something that is sentimental to both of us. Vicky isn't much of a board gamer. It's not something that she would choose to do as something to be enjoyed. So yeah, me trying to convince Vicky to play a game on Valentine's night would be, I think divorce is the word that comes to mind. Maybe not that bad, but it's not something that I would ask Vicky to do because it's not fair on her to do that. Next question from Pieman. Thank you very much for this question. Pieman is somebody over on the Easy Board Games Discord server, and he asked me this question, and I said, well, actually, it's the live Q&A next week, so put it in there. The question is, what is my favourite Terry Pratchett book? So at the moment, I am going through and reading all of the Terry Pratchett Discworld series of books. As a kid, I remember reading a few of them, but it's something that I've wanted to do for many, many years, is to actually go and read more of them. So I've decided that it's going to be one of my life goals to actually listen to all of them on an audiobook. I am currently reading book 4. So I'm only up to 4, but what I can tell you from my distant memories is that I really enjoyed Reaper Man and I really enjoyed Men at Arms. There may be other, I think I enjoyed Soul Music as well. But if you ask me again in a few years' time, when I have been through all of the audiobooks, then yeah. So I'm really enjoying Mort at the moment. I'm about 60% of the way through, and it's really good. What was interesting is, even though The Colour of Magic was the first book which, you know, started everything, going back and listening to that one again, I didn't feel it was that good. I felt it was very disjointed. It was all over the place. Every 10 pages there was a new thing. It was as if Pratchett had all of these great ideas and just threw so many of them in. So 1 minute, you know, Rincewynd's in a tree with a druid, and then 5 pages later he's somewhere else doing something else, and then 10 pages after that he's somewhere else doing something, and it just felt a little bit disjointed and confusing. Overall, it was a good story, but yeah, I felt that there was a bit too much in The Colour of Magic. So yeah, there we go. Next question from Aronwi. What game have you played that is not in your collection, but you think about often and you want to play as many times as you can? So honestly, there isn't a game that I have played which isn't in my collection, which I think about often and want to play as many times as I can. There are games in my there are games that I have played which are not in my collection, which I enjoy and I would happily play again, but they're not ones that I think about all the time. So the few that came to mind are Star Wars Rebellion, which I play on a yearly basis with Rick. So Rick owns that. Slay the Spire. I've only played it once and it was good. And also Tyrants of the Underdark, which I've not played for many years. I remember playing it a couple of times when it came out, and I don't own it, and I don't know anybody now that owns it, but I do remember it being a good game when I played it. Generally, though, I do try to focus on games that I own that are in my collection, and ideally repeated plays of ones that I enjoy, because one of the, and I've spoken about this before, one of the downsides of being a content creator and always having to, you know, create new videos for more things is that there are some great games that I play and I only get to play them twice. And that's not fair. I want to go back to these games and play them, you know, at least another 2 or 3 times. Hello, you. Are you going to answer some questions? Right, the next question is for Loki. So this is from Paul Snuggs. What heavy narrative games work well as solo experiences? I don't think he understands the question. No, he's going to give up. Right, so this is the thing. Games that are narrative heavy, the ones that I've played are Tainted Grail, Arkham Horror Card Game. What else have I played which is heavy on the narrative? I mean, there is a bit of narrative in Gloomhaven. There's more narrative in Agamonia, but that's not the core part of the game. The narrative in Gloomhaven and Agamonia is kind of before and between scenarios rather than an integral part of the game. There's a lot more in Agamonia than there is in Gloomhaven. But yeah, saying Tainted Grail and Arkham Horror Card Game, which ones of them work well as solo experiences? Any of them and none of them. I know people who have played through Tainted Grail and Arkham Horror and Aeon Trespass Odyssey, another narrative heavy game. I know people that have played through them solo and they've thoroughly enjoyed it. I have never played one of them solo and I can't imagine playing them solo because for me, playing board games with other people is more enjoyable than playing board games solo, but I do enjoy solo board gaming. So, for example, I've recently played SETI solo, and I'm playing the Arnak campaign with Rick, but if I played that Arnak solo, that would be enjoyable. A narrative-heavy game, I wouldn't really want to play it solo. It's something that I would always want to play with somebody else. So yeah, my answer is I think any of them work because I know people that have played narrative heavy games solo, but not for me. Next question from Brayal. Best heavy Euro game designer that is not Vital Lacerda. First one that came to mind for me is Alexander Pfister, but there are a number. Vlada Chvátil has done some heavy games in the past and he's fantastic, but Alexander Pfister has also done some heavy games that are really, really good. There may be other heavy games designers that I'm missing here. I probably am. Please let me know if I'm missing an obvious one. But yeah, the first one that came to mind was definitely Alex. Next question from Neil. If you could hand any published game to one of your favourite designers and ask them to redesign it from scratch in their own style, what pairing would you want most to see and what do you think they change? So this is actually a really good question for the guild, Neil. So what I'm going to do, if Chrissy is watching, I think Chrissy is watching. Yeah, excellent. We're going to put this on the guild. So if you are not a member of the Board Game Geek Guild 2258, which is the Gaming Rules Guild, head on over to Board Game Geek now. Look for guild number 2258. It's basically boardgamegeek.com/guild/2258 and join the Gaming Rules Guild. But then you need to click either subscribe or notify or whatever it is. And on there, in 5 minutes' time, there is going to be a question, which is originally from Neil, that says, if you could hand any published game to one of your favourite designers and ask them to redesign it from scratch, what game would it be and what designer would it be? So I had a bit of a think about this afternoon, and I picked a game that I really wanted to enjoy, and the theme of this game is one that I would really enjoy, but when I played the game, I absolutely hated it. And that was Xia Legends of a Drift System, which I know lots of people love and really popular, but I really loved the idea of this sandbox space game where we could become traders and we could buy cargo. I love pick up and deliver games, and we travel through the galaxy and, you know, all of this stuff. However, Xia Legends of a Drift System turned out to be one of the most random, massive downtime games that I'd ever played. So I would give it to Vlada Chvátil and say, please redesign this game in your own style and make me a game that I know I'm going to enjoy. Because this kind of games that Vlada designs and the way that he designs them is definitely more suited to my particular personal preference of games. So that would be my one. But as I say, over on the guild number 2258, there will be some answers on there from people. If you've got your own thoughts, head on over to the guild and put them in there. Next question from Davis. On occasion, you've mentioned going to the gym for exercise. What does your typical routine involve? Weights, treadmill, swimming, etc., etc. So we don't have a swimming pool at our local gym. We do have one nearby, but that means driving 25 minutes to get there. So not swimming. But generally, I will do a few kilometers on the rowing machine, or I'll do some on the treadmill, and I'll intersperse that with some weights or just general stuff, really. For me, I could probably do more when I go to the gym. I'm not really feeling much benefit. And that, I think, is because sometimes I will go for 25, 30 minutes, whereas I probably should be going for about 40, 45 minutes. But because of lack of sleep, I generally get tired and then I need to come back and things like that. So I'm happy that I'm going, but I don't have a regular routine. It really depends what I'm doing. But what I don't do is I don't go and do 40 minutes of weights. I always do a little bit on the rowing machine or the cross trainer or the treadmill, and then I'll do some weights on top of that. Next question from Rusty. How is the fix to the shower tray holding up? Thank you very much for asking. It's okay. Do we wish we'd have tackled it sooner? Yes. The reason we didn't tackle it sooner is that both me and Vicky assumed that the problem was way more than just I needed to replace the silicon sealant. We thought it was leaks within the pipes. We thought it was leaks within the base. And because we were worried about it, because we're both procrastinators by nature, the downside of that is we see something, we worry about it, and that puts us off then doing something about it. So this problem, and we noticed it for like a year and a half, 2 years maybe, but we assumed it was a bigger problem than it actually was. And then when my dad came down over Christmas, we said, right, while my dad's here, we're going to take all of the skirting board off. We're going to look underneath because it's kind of raised shower on this pedestal thing with skirting board around it. We're going to take all of the skirting board off. We're going to have a look underneath. We're going to find where the problem is. And that's not something that we wanted to do ourselves. So we waited for when my dad was here, and then we had a good look around, and we were spraying water in the shower and everything else. And that's when we realized where we thought it was coming from. So it is now fixed, hopefully. And I've replaced all of the sealant all around the shower. It probably took about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 hours in total. And I think I've done a good job with it. So I'm really happy that I've done it. And yes, should have done it sooner. Next question from John. When you have a games day, what do you typically do about meals and or food throughout the day? So one thing that I hate is getting hungry. So normally what will happen, and it really depends on how many people are coming around, but generally speaking, I will say to people, if it's like a whole games day, I'll say to people, bring your own lunch. Or if you want to, you go out and get lunch whenever you want lunch. But what I will do is I will get lunch in. Either I will buy some sandwiches the day before, or Vicky will have recently cooked a bolognese or something like that that we have in the freezer that I know I'm going to have that for lunch. And that is so that after I finish my morning game, I can just go downstairs, have lunch without needing to go, oh, I've now got to go out to the shops or anything else. In the evening, it generally is a takeaway or a trip to a local supermarket. It really depends what everybody else is doing. It depends on how many people are around, and and sometimes we will go for one big takeaway ourselves, and sometimes we'll split it. If the group downstairs are halfway through a game of Voidfall, we'll go for food and leave them to it. So yeah, it really depends, but I do like to have some food in the fridge ready to go should I need it. Next question from Vegard. Vegard has asked earlier on other Q&As if there are any themes that I'd like to see more of. But is there any themes that actively make you less interested in a game? And even worse, is there any theme that would make you absolutely not want to play? Not counting extreme themes. So for me, I'm fairly theme agnostic. I don't look at a game and go, oh, it's got Cthulhu in it, I'm not interested. Or it's a space game, I'm not interested. Or it's about farming in the Middle Ages, I'm not interested. For me, I'll pretty much play anything as long as the game itself is good. I like interesting and different themes, but I can't think of a theme which would make me initially go, I'm not interested in that because of the theme. Again, putting the extreme themes like, oh, in this game, you're a murderer going around prisons and killing. No, right? We're not going to play distasteful games like that. But yeah, there isn't any theme particularly which would make me less interested in a game. Now, saying that, there are certain themes that go better with games that are not my particular style. So, for example, pirate games, zombie games. There are a lot of piratey zombie games which are the kind of games that I generally don't like. Like, light, fun, silly, a bit random, that kind of thing. That doesn't mean that if somebody says, Paul, I've got a zombie game for you to play, I'm not going to go, oh, great, a zombie game. I'm actually going to be a little bit nervous about it because, in general, zombie-style games, zombie-style games are generally not the kind of games that I would play. But yeah, pretty much anything, really. Next question from Benjamin. God, we're flying through these today. How important is it for a game to have a lot of variability in setup? In other words, do you mind if a game allows players to pursue the same strategy each time, or do you prefer a game that tries to push you in different directions with random elements in setup? It's a very good question which I can't answer, and I've had a good think about this afternoon. And the reason I can't answer it is because I like games with a huge amount of variability. So every time you play the game, you're like, right, well, I'm going to have to play this game differently from the last one because these are the end game goals. And this is my private mission. Oh, and those city tiles have come out. Right. So I really like games with a huge amount of variability. because it does make you have to rethink, and you can't just continually do the same thing over and over again. On the flip side, some of my favourite games have zero variability. So Caelus, either 1303 or the original Caelus. The only random part of that game and the only variable part of that game is the initial 6 buildings that get dealt out on the road. Boom, that's it. Now, actually, that does cause quite a lot of variability. But that's it. Other than that, there's no variability at all. Puerto Rico. If you're not using the buildings expansion and randomly choosing which buildings to play with, the base game of Puerto Rico, where's the variability in that? None. And I've played Puerto Rico over 300 times, and I would happily play it hundreds more times. It's a great game. Ora et Labora from Uwe Rosenberg. Zero variability. Love the game. Also Caverna, also from Uwe Rosenberg. Feast for Odin. There's not much variability in these games, and yet I really enjoy them. So yeah, I love both sides of it, and I can't say which one I prefer because I like both. But it's a good question. Next question from Rafa. What are your favourite trick-taking games at the moment? So Fearless from Freedom and Freezer, which came out at Essenspiel last year, which I know is really hard to get hold of in the UK. That's really good. That's probably my favourite trick-taking game at the moment. It's the one where each player is a little ghost in a cabin, and you are trying to get out of the cabin, but you're trying to end the game as close to the cabin as possible, because you earn points the further you are away from the cabin, and you don't want points. Points are bad. But you've got to leave the cabin, because if you don't leave the cabin, it's 15 points. So yeah, Fearless is very good. I also like Cat in the Box still. I think that's a very clever game. And Stickum is always good for a little bit of take that. The Lord of the Rings trick-taking game was good as well. I did enjoy that for some, cooperative trick-taking stuff. Also, Rafa wants to know, in Civolution, do I have a general strategy? He says, exploring feels like the easiest path early on and can look a bit overpowered. So my overall strategy, and it does depend on what scoring tiles come out, but lots of people and lots of territories. If you end up with lots of people on the board and in lots of territories, then you're going to have a lot more flexibility in the game, and you're going to score more points anyway, because people on the board is always worth points, and the number of territories that you control or that you are in is always worth points as well. The rest of it does depend on the tracks and which cards you're lucky enough to get to see which tracks you're going to move up and everything else. But generally speaking, I do try to get a lot of people on the board spread out over lots of territories. You just need a regular food income in order to be able to feed them. Next question from Manisias. Are there any games which I am particularly excited for 2026? There's loads. Now, I'm not one of those people that releases a top 10 games that I'm most looking forward to this year. And there's a couple of reasons why I don't do that. First of all, I would not be able to include games which I know are coming out this year, which I'm not allowed to talk about. So there are a number of games coming out in 2026 that I am excited about, and I am not allowed to tell you about them. So doing a video, I'd have to miss out a lot of games. Also, some of the games that are coming out in 2026, which are going to be great, amazing games, nobody knows about yet. I don't know about, and nobody knows about. And this is why me doing a video at the start of the year of here's the games that I'm most looking forward to, I don't like doing it because, again, that's, if anybody watches that video in October, well, it would be vastly out of date. So yeah, there's loads of games that are going to be coming out this year's Essen, which nobody knows about yet. I say nobody, the publisher knows about it, but they've not shared it. Out of the ones which I know about and I can talk about, the Voidfall expansion, which I don't even know if it's coming out this year, but it just arrived last week, a prototype copy of the Voidfall expansion, and the campaign is going live on March 17th. So I don't know if that's coming out this year, but I've got a prototype copy. I'm covering it on the channel at the start of March, and I am excited about it. Games which are definitely coming out this year. Lands of Evershade from Awakened Realms. Probably my number one most anticipated game of this year. But also Horror on the Orient Express, which I've been following since it was first mentioned. Adam Kwapinski, Chaosium. It looks amazing. I've not played it. So I might not like it, but I don't know. I think I'll like it. And I'm actually going to be covering that one on March 28th as well. So the final production version is going to be getting to me. I'm getting an early copy of it, and Kuba from Chaosium is coming over, and we're going to be covering it on the channel on March 28th. So there's ones that I can talk about, which I am looking forward to. Next question for Ray. First question I can't answer. This is, if you were a Pokemon, what Pokemon would you be? I know almost nothing about Pokemon. I've never watched the cartoon. I don't know anything about it apart from there's these things and you catch them in balls and you can evolve them. But I don't know any of the Pokemon. So this is a question for you. If you're watching this live and there is a particular Pokemon that you think I would be suited for, or if you're watching this back afterwards, leave me a comment. Let me know. Which Pokemon do you think I would be if I would be a Pokemon? And then I'll look it up later. Next question from Ray. Have you ever broken a bone or bones? No. And Vicky hasn't either. So neither of us have ever broken anything. I did fracture a rib once when playing five-a-side football in my early 20s. And that was very painful for a couple of weeks. But no, never actually broken anything. Next question from Emmy. Are you reading anything at the moment? So reading, yes. I am gradually getting through the Marvel Ultimates, whatever it was called, graphic novels, comic books. I am about 90% of the way through. That was another one of my life goals that I am going to achieve hopefully soonish. Actual reading books, I don't read books. I only read graphic novels, but I am listening, as I mentioned earlier on, to Mort from Terry Pratchett. And I'm probably going to listen to at least one or two more. And then I'm going to switch and I'm going to start listening to the fantasy books by Brady Sadler, board game designer Brady Sadler, who's also an author, because they've got a game which I've played, which is on Kickstarter right now. No, it's not. It's on GameFound right now, called The Malice of Light Adventures. And I've played it and I enjoyed it. And if you want to see me playing it on the channel, then you can. It's based on a series of books, and Brady has sent me the audio versions of those books. So I'm keen to listen to them to see what they're like. And Vicky wants me to listen to that one that everybody says is amazing, Dungeon Crawler Carl. So we've got that on Audible. I just haven't listened to that yet. So yeah, few that I'm going to be listening to. Next question from Emmy. If you had to choose a new piece of decorative wooden furniture, what colour stroke tone would it be from the following list? White, light wood, medium wood, grey, dark wood, or black? Honestly, probably light wood. Years ago, I would have definitely gone for dark wood. And it really depends on the dark wood. If I see it and the dark wood is gorgeous, then maybe that. But other than that, probably a light or maybe light to medium wood. Next question from Ronald. Strange question, and I'm not sure if you can answer it. But, no, I can answer it. Some games have elements borrowed from other games, such as the Ark Nova card track from Civilization, I believe, in New Dawn. The points tracks from Rajas of the Ganges, also in Ark Nova. Do designers need permission to use their ideas? No, not at all. You cannot trademark game mechanisms. You can trademark artwork, names, all sorts of things like that, but you cannot trademark mechanisms. You've never been able to. So it is totally possible for a games designer to borrow whatever they want from any other game and use it in their game. Now, in general, if the games designer or the publisher is polite, they will put something in the back of the rulebook and say, this mechanism was inspired by such and such a game. So, and I've seen that happen. And I'll never forget when we got a copy of Twilight Imperium 3rd edition back in the day. Because as a Eurogamer, to find that one of the most popular Ameri style games actually borrowed mechanisms from Puerto Rico, we were like, wow, this is great. The hybrid games have started. And it is now happening all the time. But yeah, Twilight Imperium 3rd edition borrowed the core role selection mechanism from Puerto Rico. And Christian Peterson gave credit to that in the back of the rulebook, and that was really nice to see. So yeah, that's what you will see sometimes. I don't know whether Arc Nova does it, but you know, it should. But it kind of, yeah, you don't have to. And I think, I'm sure we've discussed this before. If I basically created a whole new game that was 100% a copy of another game, or even 99% a copy of another game, but I changed the name, I changed the artwork, and I just changed the theme completely, but it was almost identical to another game, I would get called out on it, and I think people would object to it. But legally, I think I'm allowed to do it. I think so. I'm not a lawyer. Next question from Neil. Neil says, I've discussed this before about my need to become an expert in a lot of things so that I can produce the content that I do. With my recent camera difficulties, I was wondering, what is your least favourite part of the job? This is a really good question, Neil. So, yeah, for those of you that don't know, I bought a new camera 6 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, maybe, which was the camera, which is the one which is directly opposite this table. And it's the one which I would do the Q&As on. It's the one that I would do the video logs on. But more importantly, it's the one that I will create the scenes for the how to play videos where it's me on camera. So for the playthrough videos where it's me next to somebody else, it's that camera, which is not on at the moment, but I'm pointing over there. That's a webcam. So whenever you are watching one of my playthrough videos and I'm really small down in the corner, that's that camera over there. But for the how to play videos, which are professionally created, they're paid for by the publisher, I want a really good quality camera. So I bought one a few weeks ago, and I bought a Sony ZV-E10 Mark II. And I had all sorts of problems with it. And it turns out it was faulty. Sony admitted that it was faulty. They wanted me to send it back to them for repair, but they couldn't give me a replacement temporarily. They didn't know how long they were going to have it for repair. And I said, I tell you what, I need a camera. I can't send you this camera back for you to then fix it. And I don't even know if they would be able to fix it, because one of the problems with it is it was intermittent. Some days it would stay on all day, every day, no problem. And other days it would switch off every 10 minutes. So I decided to return it to Amazon and get my money back. But then I used that time to go, is this the actual camera that I want? So instead, I bought a different camera. So the camera that's looking at me right now is a Sony FX30. It was twice the price of the ZV-E10 Mark II, but hopefully this is a good camera. So technical issues are frustrating, and I have had a lot of technical issues. I've had issues with cameras, I've had issues with computers, I've had issues with the streaming software. I'll never forget, this is on the Monday morning before I was doing a sponsored playthrough of SETI with the expansion. The software needed an update. The software that I use for streaming, the software that I'm using right now for streaming, it needed an update. So I gave it an update. Unfortunately, that update broke my entire system. I'm going to be moving away from this software because I don't want it anymore. It's too much of a risk. I'm still using it right now, but that was an absolute nightmare. So yeah, it comes with the job that you are going to have technical issues. You're going to have audio issues. You're going to have all of those issues. And you might think that that is my least favorite part of the job. But actually, as I thought about this, there is a part of my job which I do, which gets me very frustrated, and it sometimes makes me quite angry. And I do overreact, but it's because I'm very, very passionate about things. And when I'm very passionate about something, I am very driven, I am very vocal about it, and I do get angry and I do get frustrated. And that is rule books. So whenever I'm learning a new game, whether it be a non-sponsored playthrough or a sponsored playthrough, if the rule book is not good, I get frustrated. And I won't go into too many details why. If you're a regular viewer of mine, you will know, you know, how how terrible bad rulebooks are and how they impede the learning experience. But for me, the reason why I get frustrated and I get angry about it is because I worked as a rulebook editor and a rulebook writer for many years. I know that good rulebooks are possible. You need the right people, the time, and the effort. And when I see bad rulebooks, it's because they didn't get the right people, they didn't put in the time, and they didn't put in the effort. And some publishers do. There are some publishers, Czech Games Edition, Mind Clash Games, Deep Print Games, just to name 3. There's many others as well, but there's 3 that I've just picked off the top of my head. Their rulebooks are consistently extremely good because they have good people writing them, good people editing them, they blind play test them, they've got good proofreaders, the layout people are good, and they put in the time and effort needed. So I know that it is possible to get good rulebooks. So when I get a game with a bad rulebook, it just frustrates me and it gets to me. And one of the reasons why it gets to me is because I think of the hobby as a whole. If you've been to a shop and you've bought a game, you've given your money to the shop, so the shop makes their percentage, the distributor makes their percentage, the publisher makes their percentage, and the designer makes their percentage. So you've paid your money that you've earned to other people to buy their product. You then get home and you sit there for hours struggling to learn how to play the game, having to go online and watch some weird guy called Paul Grogan teach you how to play because you can't understand it from the rulebook. That's not fair. You should be buying a product which works. And for a rulebook to work, it needs to be a good rulebook. So yeah, and as I've got older and my tolerance has gone down, I've been getting more and more frustrated with rulebooks, bad rulebooks over the years. So that is my least favorite part of the job. I tell you what, having to stay up until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every day for 4 days, getting a video edited because Premiere Pro keeps crashing, yeah, that's annoying, but not as annoying as a bad rulebook. So hopefully that's answered the question. Next question from Owen. Owen says, I mentioned last month during a gameplay session that the game was great and didn't require an expansion. I think that was SETI. But this is something that I've banged on about before. So before I ask Owen's question, I'm just going to explain it for those people who don't know. When people say an expansion is essential, I think they're overusing the word, right? There are many, many games that I can think of where the expansion makes the game better, and I would never, ever play without the expansion because it makes the game better. However, that doesn't mean that the base game isn't good, and SETI is a perfect example. SETI, in my opinion, is a great game. The expansion makes it better, but the game did not need the expansion to fix anything. You've got a great game and you've got an expansion that makes it a bit better. But for me, that expansion isn't essential because the base game was great. So that's where I'm coming from when I think people overuse the word essential. So Owen's question is, do I have a list of 5 games that have essential expansions that I would not play the game without? And I'm not sure I can think of 5. So I did have a think about this afternoon. The only one that I can think of, and please throw your ideas at me based on my definition of essential, like the base game is broken or there's major problems with it and the expansion fixes it. That's what I want when I talk about essential. Terraforming Mars. I would never play Terraforming Mars without Prelude because unlike SETI, where I would actually be happy playing the base game, I would not be happy playing Terraforming Mars without Prelude because it's too slow to start and I like that little bit of asymmetry. But yeah, Terraforming Mars without Prelude means that it just basically takes a bit longer and it's just a bit slow to start. Other than that, the only other one I could think of was Earth, because the Abundance expansion for Earth gives you the seeds, which allows you to look for specific cards from the deck, which I believe is I don't really want to use the word flaw, but it's a minor problem with the base game, in that if you've got a scoring objective for, cards with elephants on, and you're going hunting through the deck waiting until you find a card with an elephant on, well, the Abundance expansion gives you this way where you can say, I'm going to go looking for elephants, and you draw cards until you find an elephant card. You get the idea. So Earth with Abundance fixes a problem that I had with the base game. Prelude fixes a problem that I had and most people had with Terraforming Mars. But other than that, all of the other games that I've got, like SETI, like Lost Ruins of Arnak, that have expansions, I don't believe those expansions are essential. So there you go. That's my thoughts on it. I'll have a look at the chat later on. Chris is saying viticulture. Yeah, okay, viticulture. The reason why I'd forgotten about viticulture is that I don't own viticulture. I last played it about 6 years ago, maybe more. But you're absolutely right. So when I first played viticulture, I hated the card mechanism, because you've got cards in viticulture, and you don't draw many cards in viticulture. And I drew this card, and I'm like, well, this is an early game card, and I've drawn it at the end of the game, and I'm only drawing one card, and it's rubbish. Tuscany fixed that, I believe. From what I remember, the next time I played viticulture was with the Tuscany expansion, and I think, and this is going off a 6 or 7 year old memory, but in Tuscany, every card has two uses. One of them's good early game, one of them's good late game, so that whenever you draw it, it can be useful. Again, I'd love to know whether my memory is right or not on that one. But yeah, viticulture, there's another one. I wouldn't play that without the cards from Tuscany. Next question from Jeff. What kind of things do you like to do outside of the board gaming hobby if you have the time? We've been asked this a few times, and I would say that we both enjoy geocaching, but we've not been geocaching for about a year. So yeah, we don't have, we do watch TV together. I wouldn't really class that as a hobby as such, but it is something that I enjoy doing when I'm sat down painting miniatures. We've just finished season 2 of Fallout. We've just started watching Small Profits on BBC. So we've just started watching that. So good TV programs I really enjoy. And we do watch films, and we do watch Formula One, but I'm always painting miniatures or scenery from games while I'm watching TV. So yeah. But yeah, we do enjoy geocaching. We just don't get a chance to do it very much. And we do enjoy going out and seeing cute animals at zoos or wildlife parks and things like that. But again, it's not something we do on a very regular basis. Next question from Jonathan. Jonathan says, I have not watched the Curse of the Crimson Throne videos after the first one, which was from a year ago. Well, it was about 18 months ago, because he's not sure if there are spoilers. Could you talk about whether watching the videos spoils anything? In addition, I have the second core, as in the core set, which I call second edition. This is for the Pathfinder adventure card game. He's not played it much. Do I recommend picking the expansion up now while it's available because it improves the core base, or is it really more of the same? Right, okay, so first thing is, yes, there are spoilers in those videos. However, I don't think the spoilers are big spoilers. Yeah. Spoilers for me are where the story is ruined because you found out that, oh, he was a ghost all along. That's a spoiler, right? Your enjoyment of it is going to be severely reduced because you actually know, the outcome or whatever. The Pathfinder Adventure card game that we're playing is a 24 chapter campaign. We are 9 chapters in. We will be finishing it in probably 2 or 3 years' time. The plan is that we're going to be playing 3 sessions each July and 3 sessions each December. So 6 sessions a year. or 6 chapters a year, and it's 24 chapters long. We're already on chapter 9. So it'll be another 2.5 years before we finish it. Now, there is a bit of story in those, but that story is not a story in which you're like, oh, wow, well, I didn't know that was going to happen. And knowing that is going to ruin my experience of the game. I don't believe there are any what I would class as spoilers in that game. The other thing where you would get spoilers in a game is, oh, do you choose the left door or the right door? And if you're watching me doing a playthrough and I choose the left door and you find that the left door is the dragon and you die, that's a spoiler. This game doesn't have any of that. So personally, go ahead and watch those videos. You will see the story, but the story doesn't really matter. It's more about the actual gameplay. And there are no actual spoilers within the gameplay itself. Again, comparing it to something like Gloomhaven. If you were to watch us play the campaign of Gloomhaven, sure, you'll see the story, and that's a kind of bit of a spoiler, but the core gameplay of Gloomhaven is not the story itself. That's my opinion. Next question from Jonathan is, should you pick up Curse of the Crimson Throne now while it's available? Yes, absolutely, if you can get it. The reason for that is, although it's in a smaller box, there is a ton more content. So if you just have Pathfinder Adventure 2nd edition core set, it's not 2nd edition, but core set, you've got the Dragon's Demand campaign, which is a short campaign taking place over 3 adventures. It's about 9 chapters, I think. And you have cards that take you to level 3. The Curse of the Crimson Throne gives you about twice as much content with twice as many extra cards that takes you all the way up to level 6. It gives you more content if you're playing Dragon's Demand, and it allows you to play Curse of the Crimson Throne. So it's a huge amount of more content. Absolutely, definitely get it. Right, we got some questions from Frank. First question, why is Mr. Quokka the cutest guy on Australian Animal Earth? So Frank's one of my patron supporters. I am almost at the end of creating the how to play video for Earth Animal Kingdom, which was successfully funded a while ago. It's going to be arriving with backers, I think maybe April, maybe late March, April, something like that. Don't quote me on that. But I've got an advanced copy of the game. It's here. There you go, Earth Animal Kingdom. And I have created the how to play video. It just needs me to film the scenes with me on camera using my new camera, which I will be doing next week. And one of the animals in it is the quokka, which he's very, very cute and is an Australian little animal. And he's currently not in the video, but I am going to refilm one of the scenes so that he is in the video. So you will see him in glorious 4K Technicolor in the upcoming how to play video. Second question from Frank. On Slack, you mentioned that you got a new camera. Yes. What's the reason for replacing the old one? So the reason for replacing the old one that I used to film the how to play videos on is 2 reasons. First of all, the camera that I used to use that was on me is actually quite old and the quality isn't great. It can record at 4K but only 25 FPS, and I personally prefer 50 FPS. So yeah, my old camera wouldn't do the resolution that I wanted to. But also, even though it was a 4K camera, it's an old 4K camera. So the actual quality, the bit rate and everything else wasn't great. And the colours on it are not great. I'm really having to boost the contrast a lot. Whereas on this camera right now, I'm not having to boost the contrast at all. The other reason is, one thing that I wanted to do when I was in the new studio was move away from constantly having to move cameras around. So 3 or 4 years ago, or maybe even just 3 years ago, I had one main camera. And that main camera was the overhead camera that I would use when I'm doing playthroughs. And then when I wasn't doing playthroughs, I'd have to stand on a chair. I'd have to take it down from overhead. I'd have to attach it over there. And then when I was filming how to play videos, I'd move it. I had one camera that did pretty much everything. The problem with that is I was spending so much time standing on the chair, unscrewing it from the ceiling, moving it around. And it's not just a case of moving it from one place to another. Every time I move it, I have to adjust it. So what I did is I bought a new camera, which is the overhead camera up there. That is fixed. That doesn't move. I only ever use that for the overhead shots. And I wanted the same for this. So I now have the camera that I use for filming the how to play videos over there, other side of the room on a tripod arm thing. And I have that camera there. And I don't want to be swapping them over. So the camera which is currently there is only going to be used for that. And when it's not being used, it goes up into the grid and then it comes down. So it's purely, well, quality, but also convenience of not having to keep swapping cameras, take them off the stands, put them on new stands, etc., etc. And I have to say at this point, a big thank you to all of my patron supporters, because your patron support pays for all of this stuff. The camera that I'm using at the moment, the one that you're looking at me on, is £1,800 just for the camera. The lens was another £450. So I've just spent over £2,000 on a new camera, and I'm only able to do that thanks to the support of the Patreon. If you're wondering where the money goes, it goes into the Jaffa Cake Fund, but also it goes to buying new equipment. So yeah, I have seen other content creators who do like crowdfunding campaigns to buy new equipment, and I don't need to do that because Patreon support is so good. So yeah, a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Your monthly contributions is allowing me to buy more and more equipment for this studio. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Next question from Frank. In one of my last bonus streams, so I do sometimes do bonus streams from for my Patreon supporters that never go public. But in one of those bonus streams, I mentioned that I had some minor issues with Speakeasy's gameplay. Can you give us some more insights? Now, Speakeasy, I've recently done the official how to play video for the game, and I do like the game. I think it's a very good game, and I think it's very well designed. There is one minor issue that I have with the gameplay, and it is purely from an intuitive point of view. So there is a rule in the game that when you open a building, you remove the building from your player board and you're going to put it onto the main board. On your player board, right below where that building is an icon. It's a bonus. And when you open that building, you get that bonus. Now, that's nothing new. Lots of games have that. When you remove a building from a space, you get the bonus printed below the space. That's fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. The slight, and this is not a major issue whatsoever. This is just something about the game that I thought, that's a little odd. In this game, opening a building is like a 5-step process. And step 1 is you take the building and you remove it from your player board. And then you do step 2, and then you do step 3, and then you do step 4. And step 5 is you get the bonus. And the reason, and I queried this, when I was creating the how to play video, I queried this. I said, well, why isn't it just remove the building and get the bonus straight away? And the reason is that bonus could give you something which you then use when you're opening the building on the board. For example, you might decide to open a building and take over a mobster's speakeasy. And to do that, you need 4 strength. Well, you don't have 4 strength, so you can't do it. But that icon below the building that you opened says gain 1 strength. So if the rules were remove a building, get the bonus, and then do the thing, you would have the strength. And the rules are not that. It's important that you get the bonus after you've done all of the rest of the opening. Okay. Oh, right. So I understand why the rule is the way it is. The problem is, as a player, visually and intuitively, I want to get that bonus immediately when I open the building. Now, there is also another slight issue with that, is I was playing a game of Speakeasy once, and it was quite late on in the game. And somebody said, I'm going to open a building. Right? Okay. I've removed the building from my player board. I've put it on. I've done step 2. I've done step 3. I've done step 4. Right. Now, I'm going to get the bonus of the building that I've just removed. Which one was it? And this wasn't me, and my memory is absolutely terrible. But the game doesn't come with any way of tracking which building you've just built. And if you know the game and you like the game, you might be thinking, Paul, you're talking absolute nonsense here. How can you forget? It's literally 30 seconds later. It happened. It happened in a game that I played and it wasn't me. So what I'm going to do is anytime I play that game, I'm going to remove the building from my board and I'm going to put my finger on it, or I'm going to put a wooden cube on it or something like that. Then I'm going to do the stuff. And then after I've done the stuff, then I'm going to get the bonus. And it was just a very, very minor thing, but I found it odd that the game didn't give you any way of tracking which building you'd opened, because you get the bonus later on. Or just change the rule of the game so that you do get the bonus before you put it on the board. But yeah, not my game. That was it. That was the only thing I think that I thought of. Final question from Frank, who says, thank you very much for the awesome how to play video for Speakeasy. What went well and what could have done better in creating the video? Yeah, well, you will know, Frank, and other patron supporters of mine will know that I had a lot of issues with that video. Most of them were technical, and unfortunately I did do the filming on the new camera, which kept switching off every 10 minutes. So what I had to do is I had to put a large room fan right next to the camera to do the filming, which meant I had to then fix all of the audio because there was a loud fan in the background. As well as that, I was having rendering issues with the footage from the camera, which I've never seen before. I don't know if that's anything to do with the camera. I don't know if this new camera, I've not used it yet to record anything. I don't know if I'm going to have the same problems with that. But essentially, there were a lot of technical issues with the rendering of that video. Some of which might have been down to the fact that it was a faulty camera. It could have been anything. So that could have gone better, but there isn't much that I could have done to prevent those problems from happening. And I just have to say a big thank you to all of the people who helped me check that video and helped spot those errors, because I may not have spotted them myself. Because you become camera blind to it after you've seen it so many times. So yeah, thank you very much to you, Frank, and to everybody else who watched those videos, spotted those weird errors, and then helped me fix them, basically. Right, next question from Marie. I've mentioned that I used to do to Dungeon Master and participate in lots of D&Ds, but now you mainly play board games. Yes, I don't mainly play board games. I pretty much only play. I haven't done any actual role-playing games for a long, long time. Marie says, have you found what is the closest board game that comes the closest to scratching that itch in terms of narrative, character development, exploration, adventure, fighting, storytelling, development, etc.? Yes, Agamonia. I still feel that Agamonia is the closest thing to a role-playing game than I've ever played. Because you have a character, that character has their own stories, you level up, you've got progression, you get money, you buy new equipment, there's a campaign, there's a living world where you can align with different factions, there's a lot of narrative and story. Max, the designer, has created this world, and it is very clear that he's got a lot of detail about this world. So it feels like a real place because of the amount of effort that's gone into it. But when I'm playing a scenario of Agamonia, and I've spoken about this in all of my monthly video logs, what sets Agamonia apart from Gloomhaven is that when you play Gloomhaven, apart from the narrative up front, you are playing a tactical combat simulator. That's what it is. Gloomhaven is moving around and fighting. Sometimes when you open a door, you'll read a bit more narrative. And sometimes there are special scenario rules where you've got to have a character on there and a character on there to open a door at the same time. That's great. And I love Gloomhaven. It's great. But the actual game of Gloomhaven itself is mostly a tactical combat simulator. A game of Agamonia feels like an RPG session because there's a story, there's an actual thing that you're trying to accomplish. And within a game of Agamonia, you're not just moving around and fighting things. You are opening doors, you're searching for traps, you're reading things, you're meeting people, you're having to do all sorts of tests and interact with the world and the stories that evolve, that are happening over the course of the adventure. It really feels like I'm taking part in what would have been a role-playing game scenario. So for me, it's Agamonia. I know various other people have given me other games that they will think are... Iridia is one that gets mentioned a few times to me. I've not tried that. But yeah. Follow-up question from Marie. Are RPGs too complex that parts can be recreated but not wholly? Yeah, so one of the things which I do bang on about a lot is the overuse of the term role-playing game. And this is, in my opinion, the term has been overused for many, many, many years with respect to computer games, but it's also overused with respect to board games. So when people say something is like an RPG, I disagree massively. If they say it's RPG-like, then that's fine. So Agamonia is RPG-like. You have a character, the character levels up, you've got progression, you've got story, you've got a world, you've got a campaign, etc., etc., etc. But a role-playing game is a whole other beast. You have a dungeon master rather than the game. You have an open-ended story. You've got almost the flexibility to go where you want, do what you want, infinite possibilities, and the GM or the DM is mostly responsible for driving the story forward, but you have almost no limitations apart from the rules of the games with what can happen and where you can go. Whereas within a board game, you are always confined within the parameters of the board game. The other thing that sets a role-playing game apart is that in a board game, you just play the game. In a role-playing game, you should be role-playing your character. And I don't mean putting on a silly voice. I mean the actions that you do within a role-playing game should be fully driven by your character's personality. Whereas when you're playing a board game like Gloomhaven, Agamonia, whatever, there isn't really a role-playing element to it. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Always curious to know what your thoughts are on it if you've got your own thoughts. Next question from Brian. The Winter Olympics are on. Have you watched any of it? No. Are you planning on watching any of it? No. I'm not that interested in it, to be honest, and free time for me is practically zero. The only free time we've had, as I say, we've started watching Small Profits on BBC. So I don't have much interest in the Winter Olympics. I see it come up on the BBC that, oh yeah, this team's won that or whatever, but no, I'm not really that interested in it. What Winter Olympic sport do you think you would do best at or least worst in? I mean, I don't know all of the Olympic sports, so I don't know. This is like the Pokemon question. I'm going to put it to you. What winter sport do you think, if you're watching this live or afterwards, would you think I would be best at or least worst at? Because, yeah, I don't know them all. Right, next question from Chris. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and the entire planet has transformed into cats. Not Cats the musical Cats, but actual cats. You, your friends, the postman, everyone. We're all cats. Using your deep knowledge of feline psychology, what would be the first board game that you'd attempt to play in this new whiskered society? That's a really good question, but I've no idea. What would be the first board game I'd attempt to play in this new whiskered society? So I'm going to say something with fish. So any game with fish in it. Maybe Fea's Swamp has fish in it. Maybe Nussfjord has fish in it. Yeah, anything with fish. The important constraints are no opposable thumbs. Every component is at constant risk of being pushed off the table. Half the players may randomly walk away mid-turn. And hey, that's my fish is strictly forbidden because it's too obvious. There you go. We'll go for Nussfjord. Bonus question. Would the alpha cat win through strategy or by sitting in the middle of the board and refusing to move? Yes, good one. Yeah, the alpha cat strategy. Right. Next question from Keith, who is currently on holiday in New Zealand. He's in Martinborough. Well, thank you very much, Keith, for posting the question. He's currently 11,650 miles from Columpton. How far away, roughly, does your furthest patron subscriber live? Well, I have a few patron subscribers in Australia, so I don't know exactly where in Australia they all are, but if you are one of my patron supporters, and you are in Australia or New Zealand, or you think you are further away than Keith, please let me know. Keith currently is 11,650 miles. So yeah, if you're a patron supporter of mine and you are further away from Cullompton than that, let me know. Couple of questions left. First one from Marius. Have I played Thesaurus? What did I think of it? I haven't played it. Will it appear on the channel? No. I believe it flies under the radar and hasn't been covered by top tier content creators. Why is it so unpopular? I don't know. I remember it being out at Essen Spiel last year. I remember speaking to somebody who played it and they said it was a nice idea, but the game didn't work properly and it needed more development. That's all I know about it. Why hasn't it been covered by top tier content creators? There's two reasons that I can think of for that. First of all, it could be like me, where I didn't ask for a review copy of the game because I was already coming back from Essen with enough and I'd heard some bad things about it. So it could be that lots of other content creators have also heard bad things about it. But I mean, let's be honest here. As a content creator who works full-time in the industry, along with many other content creators who work full-time in the industry, if the publisher of that game had have contacted some of these top-tier content creators a month or two before Essen and said, we're interested in a sponsored playthrough of our game to help promote it, somebody would have covered it. The fact that nobody has covered this game, or none of the top tier content creators have covered the game, means to me that the publisher didn't do that. And I'm not saying they should do that. I'm just saying that if they had have done that, that would have meant that the video would have been covered. Doesn't mean the game's any good. Just because a content creator is paid money to cover the game doesn't mean that the game's any good. You need to be aware of this. You know, I've always said this. When I get paid to do a video, my job is to show you how that game plays. If you then watch that video and go, well, that looks awful, I'm not buying it, my job is done, right? I'm here to help you make a decision about whether it's the kind of game that you are going to like. And I have been paid to do videos on the channel for games that were not very good. Thankfully, not many, but there are at least a handful of games which I got paid to do, and I agreed to cover the game, and it looked interesting, and then when we actually played it, we all hated it. But you won't see that in the video. You will have to make your own decision. I mean, you might see it in the video if you're looking at us carefully and we're all like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this. But it's sometimes really hard to be, completely neutral. And if you've ever watched one of my playthrough videos where we are obviously thoroughly enjoying it, and I was paid to make that video, please don't think that I'm pretending to enjoy it because I was being paid. That's not how it works. Anyway, final question from Phil, who actually asked this question after I'd said no more questions. But because it's Phil, I've allowed it. Are some games getting too complicated, or is he just getting too old? Phil has just got back from a convention where some of the games needed a 1 hour teach or more, and he's beginning to think that the return on investment in time, learning versus enjoyment isn't enough. It would be really helpful if somebody could create some excellent how to play videos. Can you suggest anybody? So, Phil, I've got two things here because I'm in the same boat as you. Exactly the same boat as you. And I'm getting older as well. And my tolerance has been going down. Games which require a 1 hour teach, for me, have to be really special. A game of that complexity is a game which normally I would avoid, but there are certain games like Speakeasy, like Voidfall, like Galactic Cruise. They're 45-minute teaches. Well, Voidfall's a bit longer, which I thoroughly enjoy. But my brain would not be able to take a 1 hour teach. Well, I can't take any more than a 15-minute teach. A 1 hour teach for me It's right out. So if I was at a convention and somebody said, Paul, do you want to join us for this game? It's not a game that you own. It's not a game you're ever going to own. It's not a game you're ever going to cover on the channel. But you're not doing anything. Do you want to play it? How long's the teach? 45 minutes to an hour? No. And exactly the same comment that Phil made is the same opinion that I have. The return on investment is not worth it. I don't want a 1 hour teach and then a 3 or 4 hour game for a game that I'm only going to play once. I just, and again, I think it is partly driven by me getting older, is that I just don't want to spend my time doing that anymore when there are so many great games that are a 15 to 20 minute teach or even a 30-minute teach that are really great games that I can play in 2.5 hours and get loads of enjoyment out of. So yeah, my tolerance for long, complicated games has gone down. But going back to the first question, are games getting too complicated? Yes. I think this is a problem with a lot of modern games, is that designers are throwing in too much. And there are a number of games which I've played in the last 2 or 3 years, some of which I was paid to do videos for, which I wish would have been half the complexity that they were. You've got a great idea and you've got a great core mechanism, and then we've got another board with some tracks on it, and if you move up these you get, and we've also got this set collection here, so there are these cards you can pick up and you're trying to, and then there's also this that you can do by moving. And I find it frustrating that what could have been a really good game that is a 20-minute teach and a 2-hour game has been just, they've thrown the kitchen sink at it. And for me, it's actually made the game worse. And it's reduced the target audience and it's made it longer to teach and everything. Anyway, yeah, so I'm with you, Phil. It's not just you. It's me as well. Right. We are done with all of the questions that we've been asked in advance. Thank you very much for that. It is 6:15 already. We've already got... Oh, we don't have that many questions. Oh, this is fine. Okay, so this is your last chance to ask any questions if you're watching live. I wonder why we've had so few questions this time. There you go. My question for you: why do we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions? We've only had 7 questions since we've been live. We normally get about 20 or 30. It's fine. It's really fine because I'm getting hungry and I want to wrap things up at about 6:30. So, the contest. Last month, we did a contest to win either £50 or £75 of Games Law vouchers. And I'm happy to say that Patrick, who has been a Patreon supporter of mine for almost 5 years now, won last month. So well done, Patrick. I have been in contact with you and hopefully you've got that email. But let me know. This month, same contest, same details as before. It's really, really easy. All you need to do to enter the contest is to fill in a form, the link of which is in the description of this video, and it's in the chat right now. All I need is your name, your email address, and I need the secret word. The secret word is going to be whatever animal you think that is. It's not a quokka. It's not an antelope. I'm giving you clues here, right? There you go. Is it going to autofocus? Yeah. So that animal, the animal on the front of the Earth Animal Kingdom box, that is what the secret word is. And if you get it right, you get an entry into the hat. If you are a patron supporter, you get 3 entries into the hat. So there is more chance of patron supporters winning. And the reason I do that is I can only do these videos thanks to the patron support. As I mentioned at the start, these videos are not sponsored in any way. All of the advertising revenue goes to charity and other good causes. And I'm only able to do these things because of my patron supporters. So it's only fair that I give them more chance to win. And sometimes a non-patron supporter wins, and that's fine. Last month, it was a patron supporter who won. So good luck. And if you're watching this video back in 3 weeks' time and you think, oh, rats, I missed it, I forgot to enter, you can still enter. This contest will remain open until the morning of the next live Q&A, which will be sometime around 4 weeks from now. So yeah, good luck to everybody for entering the contest. £75 of Games Law vouchers if you are a Patreon supporter, £50 if you're not. £25 of that comes from Games Law. So thank you very much to Games Law, the UK's largest specialist games retailer. And the rest of it comes from me. So it's my money that I'm putting into it. Right. So the questions that we've been asked. First one from Jeff. Roughly what is the geographic distribution of viewers on your channel and also followers of your Patreon? We were asked that a couple of months ago, and I don't know. Yeah, I was asked to try and guess how many of my Patreon supporters are based in the UK. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know whether I can get that information from Patreon. I know you can get it from YouTube, but I don't know if other people can get it from YouTube. So, yeah. But the geographic distribution of my viewers on my channel, the last time I looked at YouTube, I think it was fairly what you would expect. A lot of people from North America, a lot of people from the UK, and a lot of people from Europe. So I think it's fairly standard. If you're interested, what I can do is, if you remind me on Slack, maybe tonight or maybe tomorrow, I will go into YouTube and I will take some screenshots for you and I'll post them to the Slack channel. If you're wondering what the Slack channel is, if you become a Patreon supporter at supporter level or higher, you get access to the Slack channel. It is a community where lots of people are discussing board games and other such things, and it's a private community for Gaming Rules Patreon supporters. And I do share a lot of extra bonus content there and all sorts of extra stuff. Next question from Dorrit. You've said that after you've played The Elder Scrolls, you'll likely never play Too Many Bones again. Correct. What exactly do you prefer about Elder Scrolls over Too Many Bones? Good question. Few things. First of all, I actually like the setting better. So Elder Scrolls, the setting of Elder Scrolls, for me, I prefer that setting to the setting of Too Many Bones. That's not the main reason, that's just one of the reasons. I think the main reason is one of the main reasons. In Too Many Bones, you have a gear lock, and that gear lock is made up of dice, which are skills, and for each one of those dice, you're given one or two sentences of text and then a whole bunch of letters. For me, I struggle with that. I want a game to tell me how to play the character. I want it to say, look, Paul, you've got a dice here, right? If you use this dice and roll it, and it rolls on this side, you put it there. That means it's active, which means when it's active, you can do this with it and that with it. And once you've done that with it, you put it down here, okay? That's how that dice works. Now, that dice is great in combination with this dice, because if you combine that with that one, when that's active, it does this, great. Now, you don't get all of that in Elder Scrolls, but what you do get is you do get an actual description in plain English of how it works. In Too Many Bones, you will get a one sentence and a bunch of letters and some symbols. It's effectively a hieroglyphic type language, which I struggle with. And there are some characters in Too Many Bones, which despite having played the game like 10 times, I still have no idea at all how those characters work. Because it's like, that means that, and that means, I don't know. Now, it's probably nowhere near as bad as what I'm saying, but for me it is. So yeah, I struggled to actually understand it. Also, the rulebook for Too Many Bones is one of the worst rulebooks that I've ever read, whereas the one for Elder Scrolls is about 100 times bigger, but it's a lot clearer. Now, Elder Scrolls is a more complicated game. Elder Scrolls is a full campaign game. There's lots and lots of extra details and lots of extra rules in there. So it is overall a more complicated game, and it does take longer to play because you play over 3 sessions, and each session is probably about 5 or 6 hours, whereas a game of Too Many Bones is probably 5 or 6 hours. But I do much prefer Elder Scrolls. The other thing, the last one that I want to mention, is in Too Many Bones, you choose a gear lock. You probably have 2, maybe 3 ways that you can build that character. In Elder Scrolls, you can choose anything. You've got choice of race, choice of class, choice of skills, so many things. And there are so many different combination of builds that you can do in that game. It just gives you a huge amount more variability in the different characters that you can do. So yeah, that's that. Next question from Graham. Have you bought your Manacon ticket yet? No, I haven't. I was going to do it last night and then I ran out of time. I might just do it tonight. I don't know who I'm going with to Manacon yet, but I am definitely going to Manacon. And if you are going to Manacon and you live near me and you want to give me a lift, let me know. Next question from Frank. Congratulations on reaching 60,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. What is your preferred number of supporters at the end of the year? So what Frank is referring to is the number of YouTube subscribers I have, which is 60,000, which is great. Thank you very much to everybody who has subscribed. Frank is asking what is my preferred number. Honestly, I don't know. I have a thing about the number of YouTube supporters the YouTube subscribers I have, is that figure for me might sound good. And it's not that I'm not happy about it, but it is fairly meaningless. Now, if my videos got 60,000 views, great, but they don't. These Q&As, for example, they get about 2,000 views. And you might think, well, hang on a minute, Paul, you've got 60,000 subscribers. How are your videos only getting 2,000 views? Well, my channel has been around for over 10 years. And 10 years ago, when I created a video, somebody watched it, clicked subscribe, and has never watched another video that I've ever created. It's a polite thing, and I'm the same. There are other channels out there, other YouTube channels out there who have done a video, and I watched it, and I thought, oh, that's a good video. I'll subscribe to them, and I've probably never watched another video from them. A better metric that publishers should be looking at is not the number of subscribers, because that's almost meaningless. It's how many views and how much engagement do you get on the video itself. And when I say views, I don't mean fake views, but let's not get into that argument. We'll skip that for a month. I'm surprised nobody's asked me about that, but yeah, real views, real comments from real people, not AI nonsense. So yeah, so to be honest, if we get to the end of the year and I've still got 60,000 subscribers, that metric of how many subscribers I have, that doesn't actually matter to me. Next question from Dark Soul 3 Lover. How do you deal with watching yourself and others getting older? Oh, thanks for that. Thanks for the reminder that I'm getting older. Honestly, I don't really want to get into it. The short answer is that no, I can't talk about it, I'm afraid. I tried, but yeah, it's not something. Let's just say it's something that is on my mind, and it is something that I do have thoughts about. And when I think about it and I want to talk about it, I get emotional and I seize up. So, yeah. I'm happy to put something down in writing because I can do that without talking about it. But let's just say things have changed for me over the last 4 or 5 years. And it's given me a different outlook on life. Next question from Jim. Any thoughts on the SETI expansion with the new aliens and variables? Yeah, it's amazing. It's an essential expansion. No, I'm kidding. No, I loved it. SETI was a fantastic game. I only played it 2 or 3 times, but I loved it. And then I played it with the expansion and I loved it again. It is great. If you like SETI, the expansion is a no-brainer. There's no reason not to get it. And also there's no reason not to include it. I'm a big believer in don't use expansions for your first game, but the SETI expansion is something that I think I'd feel comfortable with. Certainly the easy corporations using it for the first game. Next question, how do you feel about the Tuburu board game system? I have no idea what the Tuburu board game system is, so I'm afraid I can't answer that question because I have no idea what that is. Next question from So Very Wrong About Games. Thank you for popping in. Came late, so not sure if this was asked already. What game from last year are you still trying to get to the table? I can answer that. I can answer that because there are currently, in fact, I'll open up the sheet just for you, Mike. I have a list of games that I brought back from Essen Spiel last year, which I haven't played yet. And I'm going to give you a list of them right now. But by the end of, where are we? February. By the end of March, 4 of these will be covered and maybe more. So the list is, I've got the wrong list up. Druids of Adora, which I actually got sent just before Essen last year, but it still counts. Endeavour Deep Sea, which I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that wasn't an Essen game, but I got it at Essen last year. So Druids of Adora, Endeavour Deep Sea, Aquaria from Thomas Hoylake and Delicious Games, Stupa Mundi, which again I picked up at Essen last year. It wasn't an Essen game, but I picked it up there. White Castle Duel, Kingdom Crossing, that I keep hearing loads of good things about, and I've still not played it. Epona, also from Vladimir Suchy and Delicious Games. Forest Shuffle Dartmoor, I've not played yet. It's 8. There you go. So there are 8 games which I brought back from Essen Spiel last year, and I haven't covered yet. Now, I can tell you that on March 20th, in the afternoon of March 20th, I will be covering Druids of Adora. These are not sponsored videos, which is why I'm having to just find time to fit them in. So March the 20th is a day off work for me. Druids of Adora in the afternoon. Stupa Mundi in the evening. March 27th is going to be Aquaria in the afternoon and Endeavour Deep Sea in the evening. So that's 4 of them done. The other 4, I am going to have to find time to fit them in. It will hopefully be March, but I've got loads of Captain's Shared videos to do in March, and Lands of Evershade, and Nucleum Gibraltar, and Cloudspire, and Horror on the Orient Express. So, yeah, March is going to be a very... Oh, and the Voidfall expansion. So March is a very busy month. But, yeah, I've got 4 more to do after I've done them. So I'm aiming for the end of April. End of April is my target goal. And then they will all have been cleared. And that will be it for another year, he says. And the couple more questions. Right. Next question from Harsh Panda. I am not yet game hobbyist, but I love seeing games decoding their design assets, mechanics, and cohesive visuals. What would be your best advice for a visual designer to work in the game industry? Oh, well, I mean, best advice for a visual designer to work in the games industry. If you're talking about graphic design, it's interesting. So I don't know how, if you are a graphic designer, how you start working in the board game industry. I don't know that. One of these days, I will speak to people like Ian O'Toole, one of the best artists and game graphic designers that there is, and say, how did you actually get started in the board game industry? Whereas now, people are approaching Ian and saying, will you do our graphic design? Ian no longer has to seek work himself because he's got enough people coming to him asking him to do it. But I actually, honestly, I don't know if you are a graphic designer interested in, the game mechanisms and the cohesive visuals. If you are the next Ian O'Toole, how do you get into the gaming industry? The only thing I would say is you need to go to places like UK Games Expo, Gen Con, Essen. So some of the big game conventions, and you need to sit down and you need to have meetings with publishers. But you cannot just turn up at these conventions and go to a booth and say, I'd like to talk to you about becoming your new graphic designer. You need to contact these publishers beforehand. So actually, for me saying I've got no advice and I don't know where to start, what you need to do is literally start sending emails. You need to contact publishers, and ideally publishers who does games that you like, and say to them, I am a graphic designer. I am interested in potentially doing work with you. Now, you might get a few different results. First of all, if you were to go to a publisher like Czech Games Edition, for example, they would probably say no. And the reason for that is CGE have got their own in-house team of excellent graphic designers. CGE is no longer a small company that gets third parties in. It still does for a few things, but they do a lot of things internally. So I would guess that CGE would probably say, thanks very much, but we're all right for graphic design. But there's lots of other publishers that might be interested. And then what you do is once you've had that initial contact, you arrange to meet them at Essen, UK Games Expo, or even just over email, and you share what you can do. That's where I would start. But honestly, I'm not sure. And the final question for today is from Tiglet. What is considered better engagement by YouTube, a like or a comment, or are they the same? A comment, absolutely. And if you are watching this video back afterwards, please leave me a comment, because those comments actually do make a difference. The thumbs up, I think, make very little difference. I think the comments and the engagement are generally, if you're a publisher and you're looking at one of my how to play videos and thinking, maybe we should pay Paul to do a how to play video for our game. Let's go and have a look at it. Oh, he's got 9,000 views on that video. That's all right. But he's had 2 comments. 2 comments. 2 people liked the video enough to leave him a comment. That's not much. So yes, comments are always really important. Less important on a video like this, much more important on my sponsored video. So this is a plea. This is me begging, not begging, but this is a plea. If you ever watch any of my playthrough videos or my how to play videos, please, please, please leave me a comment and just say that you enjoyed it or you found it useful or something like that. Because you might not realize this, but I have lost work because some of my videos don't get the engagement that other people's do. So if you're thinking, Paul's one of the big guys, he doesn't need to worry about this, the reality is that there are a number of publishers that I have done videos for that do not want me to do videos for them anymore because they're not getting the stats, they're not getting the views, they're not getting the engagement, they're not getting the comments. Thankfully, I have enough clients that still want me to do videos for them, but that's how important it is. It is really important. And I know this is why you see everybody on all of the channels going, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, and leave me a comment and things like that. And you're probably sick of hearing it. I know I am, but it is really important for a content creator to have that. And I always try to leave comments on other people's videos when I've watched them because I know how important it is. But anyway, we are all done. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us. What time are we? That's not bad, 6:37. What are we having tonight? Risotto with chicken, bacon, mushrooms, quackers. Any quackers in it? No quackers in it. But yeah, we're all done. So just one final reminder before we go. Contest. Don't forget to enter the contest. It's absolutely free. Nothing to lose. You could win £50 or £75 worth of games vouchers from Games Law. And all you need to do is click on the link, which is in the description of this video, and put the secret word is whatever animal that is. And I will do the draw in about a month's time. And the only other thing to mention, as I said earlier on, big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for funding the channel, helping me buy new equipment. I'm so happy right now that that camera has not switched off. And hopefully the quality is good, because it is a really expensive camera with a really expensive lens. So I'm really hoping that those of you watching this video are thinking, Paul's looking a lot better quality tonight than he's normally from the webcam. So yeah, it is a much more expensive camera. It is a much better quality camera. And thanks to the Patreon support, I can continue to improve the visuals, improve things, and buy more cameras and things like that. So yeah, big thank you to all of you for your support, because yeah, your money effectively goes to making things better here. And I want to give that back. So we're all done. Thank you very much to everybody for watching. If you are interested, tomorrow afternoon, live stream, 3 o'clock tomorrow, Labyrinth Chronicles. Yet, the family kids game from 40 years ago is back with a new version from Awakened Realms, 3D scenery, the whole lot. And at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, I'm doing a live playthrough. So if you're interested in that, that's happening on Thursday. And Friday, what am I doing on Friday? Oh, Heroes of the Shire. Yes, Damien Senior is coming over, designer of Heroes of the Shire. And we're going to be doing a live playthrough of the new Light and Shadow. I don't think it's an expansion. I think it's a standalone game. But that's Friday night, 8 o'clock, another live stream. But all of these live streams can be watched afterwards if you want to. But yeah, we got Labyrinth tomorrow, Heroes of the Shire on Friday. It's going to be awesome. And there might be some Captain's Chair tonight if you're a patron supporter. So I might, later on tonight, be doing a private live stream of me learning the Kirk deck from Captain's Chair. If I do that, I'll post a link, but that's not going to be a public stream. It's going to be a Patreon-only stream because I need to learn it. It'll be very, very rough. Don't worry. There will be public videos of all of the new Captain's Chair captains coming over the next 4 or 5 weeks or so. But yeah, I might be doing that tonight. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.